So, reading from The Unknown Reality, this is Volume 2 by Jane Roberts, a Seth book. So, before I begin, I just want you guys to observe that these books really need to be read in consecutive order as they were written, okay? So, I am going to start this book and hopefully be able to read all of it to you guys, or parts, the best parts, but I have a few videos in Volume 1 of this book, Unknown Reality, but I really suggest that you buy these books, you actually read these books yourselves, because nothing can really replace the actual book in your hand to be able to study, understand, to contemplate and assimilate this information. So that's like my disclaimer here. And as you can see, this book literally took me about just under 2.5 months to read. And that's reading every day for hours and hours, you guys, literally. Studying, looking up words, the whole gambit, okay? And this is going to kind of show you like what this book entails. So you can pause and read these if you'd like. Okay, so starting with introductory notes by Robert Butts, Jane's husband. I am not going to read all of these. I'm getting to the nitty-gritty here, okay? So right here, Robert is inserting that Seth basically is saying that he calls Jane Rupert because, quote, the given entity identifies itself more with the so-called male characteristics than with the female, end quote. Okay, and obviously, if you already know about these works, which I hope you do before listening to this video, he addresses Robert as Joseph. Okay, so from the preface, from Volume 1, Rob inserts that right here, and I'm going to read that. It says, so this is Seth, quote, Jane Roberts' experience to some extent hints at the multi-dimensional nature of the human psyche and gives clues as to the abilities that lie within each individual. These are part of your racial heritage. They give notice of psychic bridges connecting the known and unknown realities in which you dwell. In my other books, I used many accepted ideas as springboards to lead readers into other levels of understanding. Here, I wish to make it clear that unknown reality will initiate a journey in which it may seem that the familiar is left far behind. Yet, when I'm finished, I hope you will discover that the known reality is even more precious, more real, because you will find it illuminated both within and without by the rich fabric of an unknown reality now seen emerging from the most intimate portions of daily life. Your concepts of personhood are now limiting you personally and en masse, and yet your religious, metaphysics, histories, and even your sciences are hinged upon your ideas of who and what you are. Your psychologies do not explain your own reality to you. They cannot contain your experience. Your religions do not explain your greater reality, and your sciences leave you just as ignorant about the nature of the universe in which you dwell. These institutions and disciplines are composed of individuals, each restrained by limiting ideas about their own private reality. And so it is with private reality that we will begin and always return. The ideas in this book are meant to expand the private reality of each reader. They may appear esoteric or complicated, yet they are not beyond the reach of any person who is determined to understand the nature of the unknown elements of the self and its greater world. End quote by Seth for the preface of Volume 1. Okay, again, I'm not going to read this, so pause and read. This is the headings for the 3 sections of Volume 1 to give you an indication of its contents as stated by Rob. So you can read those if you have not already read Volume 1. Again, I stress that it is so much better if you have read Volume 1. So this book, me reading of Volume 2 is really for people that have already read it and want like a recap. Also, Seth stresses that the nature of personal reality, and obviously the Seth Speaks book, the Seth material also will come in really handy in understanding these ideas because they build upon each other. Okay. So right here, this is the 762nd session for December 15th, 1975. Seth explained how unknown reality fit into the larger body of his material. It says, quote, in Seth Speaks, this is Seth, in Seth Speaks, I tried to describe certain extensions of your own reality in terms that my readers could understand. In the nature of personal reality, I tried to extend the boundaries of individual existence as it is usually experienced, to give the readers hints that would increase practical, spiritual, and physical enjoyment and fulfillment in daily life. These books were dictated by me in more or less straight narrative style. In Unknown Reality, I went further, showing how the experiences of the psyche splash outward into the daylight, so to speak. I hope that in those 2 books, these 2 books, this one and Volume 1, through my dictation and through Rupert's and Joseph's experiences, the reader can see the greater dimensions that touch ordinary living and sense the psyche's greater magic. Unknown Reality requires much more work on Joseph's part, and that additional effort in itself was a demonstration that the psyche's events are very difficult to pin down in time. Seemingly, its action goes out in all directions. As Joseph did his notes, it became apparent that some events seemed to have no beginning or end. End quote by Seth. Okay, so let me just add that some people I've heard that, they don't like Rob's notes. Oh, there's so much unnecessariness, and there is a lot of things in certain books that are unnecessary, but in this particular volume, 2-volume, The Unknown Reality, he does his best job. Let me just tell you that right now. He does so much research, so much work, finding quotes that correlate and giving you the reference on where to find it. So it's really neat, and we will do our best to basically find those places, and I will try to read you guys everything that I can. It is quite the undertaking. Let me just say that. This is a very large volume, and this is the second. So also something to consider that Seth adds here, he's talking to Rob about this particular book and all of the work that Rob is putting into it, or Joseph is putting into it. Seth says, now, you need not worry about unknown reality. You have already done the books in another probable reality and completed them very well. The model for them and your notes already exist within your mind. Scan any paragraph of your notes, then turn your mind gently a half notch aside. As you do so, you will be able to sense your own completed version, and any word that does not fit will be instantly sensed, while another will at once slip to mind. Your final paragraphs are already there in the probability now that you have chosen. That probability belongs with the present you have now, yet you chose it from an infinite number of other realities. The books arose from probabilities, both yours and mine as well as Rupert's. In some we did not meet. Even those, however, contain the probability that we will, since here we do. End quote by Seth. Alright, so Rob notes right here, he says, in one form or another, Jane carries all of those books, her books, these books, with her from reality to reality. During an ESP class, Seth called them her beloved paraphernalia, in quotes, or symbols. Then continued, so Seth states, they are more than symbols, however. They are means of recognition that stand for something else, a reality. Signs that stand for words, spoken before the birth of words. Words imprinted in molecules. Words that were imprinted in other ways before the birth of molecules. And yet words that echo within your own individual psyches. In one way or another, these words, like pebbles, are left along the beach of your collective reality. Some will pick them up and say, "What lovely stones," and gaze upon them and see what they mean. And others will kick them aside. But in one way or another, those words continue to be spoken, whether through these lips or through the sound of leaves, or through the invisible music of your own cells. So do they exist. And that is the meaning behind the books and the symbols. End quote by Seth. So Rob goes on to say, certainly Seth is saying that Jane's books and his represent her acknowledgement of and search for an ideal. So do my own efforts in life. He says, see Seth's material on ideals set in the heart of man, in quotes, in sessions 696 to 697 for Volume 1 of Unknown Reality. Apropos of such concepts, I'll close these introductory notes by quoting from a personal session Seth gave for Jane and me, in which he reiterates the importance of the individual and the pursuit of the ideal. Seth initiated the following passages by talking to me about, quote, the safe universe, end quote, that each person can create and live within. Although his words are directed to me, they have a broad general application. Here's Seth, quote, in your mind, you creatively envision the ideal, the sanity of some future culture that you hope our work and that of others will bring about. If not tomorrow, then sometime. When you thoroughly understand what is meant by the entire safe universe concept, then the physical, cultural climate is seen as a medium through which the ideal can be expressed. The ideal is meaningless if it is not physically manifest to one degree or another. The ideal seeks expression. In so doing, it often seems to change or alter in ways that are not understood. Yet those distortions may be the very openings that allow others to perceive. In a way, with this book and with your art, your purpose is the expression of the ideal, and that expression must be physically materialized, obviously. Your joy, Your challenge should be in the manifestation of the ideal as you see it, whether or not you can, in your terms, count the consequences or the impediments, whether or not the expression comes to fulfillment in your terms, and even if it seems to fall on ground on which it will not grow. As an artist alone, your purpose is expression, which involves disclosures, the difference between the ideal and the actual. Be reckless in the expression of the ideal, and it will never betray you. Treat it with kid gloves, and you are in the middle of a battle. End quote by Seth. So Rob adds, to be truly reckless in the sense of Seth's definition, how daring, I'd say that attaining such a state represents quite an achievement. For most of us, including myself, it means shedding many encrusted and limiting personal beliefs. I do get glimpses of that condition of inner and outer freedom, just enough to understand some of the many practical benefits that can flow from it. I can't think of a better goal. So, first of all, I'm losing my light for some reason. I have a little light here, but it's not working. I'm getting some bright light and shadow, which is actually awesome. Section 4, this video is almost over. I'm just going to say explorations. It's about explorations, a study of the psyche as it is related to private life, and the experience of the species. Probable realities as a course of personal experience as it is related to past and future civilizations of man. So that will be the next video where this book actually begins. So I hope you guys can bear with me and, just subscribe and get updates on when a new video is produced. And you can listen to this amazing book. It is going to take some time, and before we know it, it'll be completed, and you can listen to the whole thing in a playlist. And what is time, right? Thank you for watching.